Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies, and in this video we'll be discussing Freemasonry and Catholicism by Manly P. Hall. An article taken from the All-Seeing Eye, Volume 3, Number 12, February 9th, 1927. The paths of opposites as expressed in religious ideals. The opposition of the two religious ideals, Masonic and Catholic, is a subject upon which much contention has been based. There are so many paths that wind heavenward, and each of these paths is so broad and considerate unto itself, and so narrow and inconsiderate to others, that it is difficult to find just where the point of justice lies. But in taking up the study of these two great beliefs, we must realize that in order to form an unbiased opinion, we must find their points of unity. Our study has nothing to do with what the members of these creeds may believe or do, for, while there is no doubt a great deal going on in the world that we do not like, we must not judge the truth by the malefics we find cloaked under it. We are to study the light and the truth, rather than personalities, always principles and never personalities. Personalities who fail do not interfere with the truth at all, but merely stamp themselves as having no knowledge of it. When they disobey their rules and break all principles of justice and clean living, they do not disqualify the truth which remains concealed beneath, awaiting those who will find it. Our likes and dislikes mean little. The great thing is, what does the soul of the seeker find in these things which adds to his life and understanding? And it is upon that ground we will discuss these two great opposites. These two great paths, which we have creedized and placed upon opposite sides, are wholly dependent one upon the other for an expression of true wisdom. Combine their names and they mean universal light, for Catholic means universal, and the ancient word Mason means light. These two have for ages been separated, but if we take the words themselves, we find they are dependent one upon the other to make a perfect whole, for the one expression of unity is through universal light. In the great plan of nature, there are two great powers that are forever combating for supremacy. And in the realms of spiritual nature, there are two corresponding hierarchies, the Lords of Reason and the Lords of Compassion. These two great groups of spiritual intelligences have charge of the unfoldment of the human race, and these great leaders express themselves through individuals and groups of individuals in the world of material affairs. But these groups in this world are always inadequate representations of the great life that is behind. We so often judge truths by their followers, not seeming to realize that the followers are always weak. There will always be black sheep, but these black sheep do not destroy the sweetness of the truth, but only stand out as contracts against it. And these two great works are so close, have so much in common interest, so much in unified work, that the only reason why they are not one today is because of the narrowness of their members. There is no argument in the spiritual universe between reason and faith, but the partially developed expressions of them have resulted in inharmony, and these comparisons, which are based upon the fight for supremacy, are the basis of a great deal of suffering. In the spiritual planes, there are these two groups of workers. In the plane of cosmic unfoldment, there are the Lords of Reason, who have charge of the awakening, unfolding, and developing of the sense centers of man by spreading light, truth, and knowledge, advancing the arts and sciences, and building the positive expression of brain power. They have charge of these mystical unknown things, which man calls nature's laws. This great hierarchy has sent into the world the truth and light, which is at the present time concealed beneath the rubbish of the fallen temple of craft masonry, hidden beneath where only those who live the life of purity and reason may penetrate and know its meaning. Out of the crumbling ruins of the school of the ancients, we find a group of builders whom we call Freemasons. Today, this group of students promulgate philosophies and ideals whose source they do not know, but in some mysterious way they have adopted certain concepts and rites under the head of philosophy. The mind has been worked upon by the lords of reason, analogy, analytical thought, mathematics, etc. have come to man to build the powers of reason. Educo is their key word to draw forth. Lux, meaning light, is their slogan. And today man is still wandering in darkness of his ignorance, carrying in his hand a flaming triangle. And the Masonic brother of today is still searching for the same lost word. He is ever the seeker. He must know. He must see with his own eyes in order to believe. He is the child of the flame, who has come down through the ages, seeking to build a living temple to a living God. And in the same mystic darkness of antiquity, another great work has started along with the work of their mind. It was the path of faith. Catholicism, the great principle of the Lords of Compassion, for those who would believe, not to seek, but to believe upon faith. So down through the ages, they have come promulgating the heart religion. In India, they have a much better idea than we have of these two great powers. They say that each race has been given two great ones, the Manu and the Bodhisattva. The Manu is the lawgiver, and the Bodhisattva is the mystic who teaches them in the ways of love, peace, and compassion. These two are a positive and negative expression of the truth, which is neither. They are the polarities of comparison, the two extremities which must be balanced. We find Hiram Abiff, the great Masonic hero, the one to whom all Masons are drawn by a mystic bond. Then there is the Virgin Mary, the Mother of God, the Blessed One of the mystic path. These two represent nothing but the two expressions of the divine in man, the heart and the mind, the great Father and the great Mother. For many ages, man has crystallized these beautiful, immortal concepts and has degenerated and degraded them. But this is of no interest to the student who is seeking only for the light, caring not who the bearer may be, for he realizes that the bearer who fails to carry his light receives the punishment that is his due. We need give him no more. In the ancient temples, they took two flowers, a rose and a lily, and placed them side by side on the altar as symbols of two great paths, the positive and the negative. The rose is the path of the heart, and the lily, the path of the mind. Thousands of people have seen these symbols carved and painted, but do not realize that they represent the great natural principles, the twofold path that leads to light. No man walks to light, save through his twofold path, and the one who finds it is he who searches both to find the good in each, excluding that which is not good. Brotherhood, love, purity, faith, and compassion. All these qualities are the truth and are absolutely essential to the salvation of man, regardless of his creed. Unless he lives the life of simplicity, service, and faith, he will never walk the path. On the other hand, knowledge, truth, courage, the powers of activity, work, strength and unfoldment, and the realization of law, all are the living light of Hiram Abiff. Without knowledge, man dies. Without knowledge, he cannot grow. Without courage and individuality, and standing upon his own feet, he cannot receive light. And yet, If he does not learn the simplicity and sweetness of the eternally feminine in himself, which is the Virgin Mary, he cannot walk the way. Those who join in the wrangle of which is superior to the other are wasting energy and time, and only those who leave the wrangle and walk both paths go forward. Let the fight go by and walk the way itself, caring not which side wins. Take the truth and let the dross drift by. When we take these two great beliefs and strip them of their personality, we find the things in man which they stand for. On the flaming altar of Masonry is dedicated the spiritual life of man, and in the holy water of the Catholic Church is washed the bodies of man. Neither is complete without the other. We must find a water that will feed the flames, and a fire which will burn in water. As the alchemist of old told us, the Mason is the occultist, and the Catholic is the mystic. There is a lot of difference between creeds and truths, and thousands know nothing of truth, but they believe the creeds. Both in Masonry and in Catholicism are modern interpolations which have nothing to do with the spiritual powers. The rituals are all of them of modern date and lack the simplicity which makes the truth beautiful. The ancient faith had no personality, and it is the involving of human personalities into celestial affairs that is the cause of a large percent of our dissension. Let God have the things that are God's. There is a great chasm between the human and the divine. Man cannot bridge it now, but can only slowly labor to build himself until he can. The Catholic faith is old as Masonry, and it did not start with the life of the so-called Virgin Mary, any more than Christianity did with the Master Jesus. Practically all of the modern Masonic ideals are in reality Egyptian, and nearly every one of the modern world concepts of Catholicism are Buddhist. There is not one single original symbol or concept in the Christian faith. Every one of them belong to ancient peoples. Its robes are from the Buddhist, its doctrines from the Brahmic, and its faith from the Vedanta. Masonry is Egyptian and Brahmin. Its rituals are from the Chaldean and Phoenician. There is not one purely Christian ideal in religion except that one great ideal which the Master Jesus brought. The one ideal absolutely overlooked, brotherhood, the one doctrine he sought to bring. Practically all the rituals of the Catholics are taken from the East because the East is the divine lamp of the mystic. For the Eastern peoples, the worlds we live in are worlds of unreality. They people the universe with strange beings and build temples to their gods. They have their Mother of God and their divine creator and their Christ. Trace these faiths back as far as possible and you will trace them to the lost continent of Atlantis. There you will find the Lords of Reason and the Lords of Compassion laboring to unfold the human consciousness. And if it were possible to go back to the source of it all, the paths unite into one, and we find that bigotry and unregenerated individuals are the basis of all misunderstandings. But as long as there's dissension among men, it will express itself in religion, and never until man finds truth within himself will he break through the wall of contention. And if we look closely, we find that the same thing works through all the religions of the world and all through nature. Freemasonry and Catholicism are the positive and negative poles of one thing, and these poles are always opposed to one another. This very opposition, building something which is a perfect balance. Those who would walk in the path of mind and reason to join that group which governs races will follow the path of Masonry. Those whose greatest ideal is to save, to protect, and to mother will follow the path of the heart. But there will come a time when man can no longer carry either, for at the door of initiation he must drop them both. All he can carry forward is a union. There at the doorway of the great unknown, he must find the missing link within himself. Reason cannot take him in, neither can love. Through the path of faith and service, and by following in the way that he is told, man cleanses his being in water, but the priest of Melchizedek is baptized by fire and by water. There is no way of securing initiation of water save through the concepts of the ancient Catholic faith, and the only way to be baptized by fire is to pass through the portals of Masonry. The individual need never to enter a church or a Masonic lodge, and yet in his soul he must live these two qualities before he is capable of initiation. For the fire is the ever-burning fire of the gods which burns in the brain, and the water is the self-abnegation and purification. The time is coming when these two factions will be united in one great bond of brotherhood, which is the keynote of our work today. When that happens in the world, then a mystic bond will be built into the consciousness of man, which will tie together the heart of the Mother of God and the fire-flaming brain of the Father, united in a union which will last until the end of time. Consciously or unconsciously, everything in nature is working to that end. The sign of the cross is the trying of the heart and mind. One does it with love and faith, and another does it in exploring stars and worlds, and it cannot be determined which is the most necessary to man. The Lords of Reason stand in the Masonic Lodge, and through their works labor to open the eyes of the blind. The Mason must mold worlds unknown and carry on the work of the great builder, while on the other side, when the mystic enters the cloisters of his cathedral, someone there awaits him. The Shining One in his robes of white gives him benediction to lowly hearts that bow in faith and simplicity. While the benediction may mean nothing to the average individual, there is a benediction of spirit to the truly religious heart which no man can understand. There is a peace of soul understood only by those who have felt it. The work of the mystic is to go forth and soothe the aching hearts of men, mend the broken lives, broken in the path of the Lords of creation, to go out and tenderly lift the broken ones and heal the hearts that are sad. For the mystic is ever the Divine Mother who must walk behind the Father of creation to pick up the broken souls of men. On those two glorious wings all life and knowledge soar through the clouds of the universe. As a spirit of light goes on its way, it always leaves behind a comforter. The Creator with the power of the chisel and mallet hammers worlds from chaos, but always behind him is left a comforter of the heart. And so through the ages, man learns of his God. So each student must realize that there is a work of rebuilding broken temples and bringing together shattered loves within himself. And he can only do this when he has the wisdom of the serpent, which is the path of the mind, and the love and humbleness of the dove, which is the path of the heart. Man must be as wise as the serpent and as harmless as the dove, if he would be baptized of the Spirit and of water truly. Therefore, when we go out and are thinking of those two great opposites, let us forget the wrangling, which is only because they do not know. Let us see behind both of the beautiful paths, one of the builder going out, conquering and to conquer, seeking to give greater truth and strength, and the other, the silent veiled form that goes behind to lift, cheer, and soul. If we have any thought on this subject, let it only be of sympathy and kindness for those whose spiritual limitations make it impossible for them to see behind the veil of creed, for they are to be pitied and helped and not blamed. Each is a great concept of being, a perfect example of truth when lived. In the East and in the West, North and South, among the black, white, and brown, we find the same two beautiful truths. the path of the heart and the path of the mind, the path of the Creator and the Divine Mother with her tenderness and love. The creeds are thick veils, still for the eyes of the penetrating student. Those two beautiful truths will still shine through, the beauty of works and the beauty of love. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.